You know that feeling when you look at your paycheck and realize a huge chunk of your hard-earned money is just gone? Before the cash even hits your bank account, the government has already stepped in and taken its cut. You sit there, recalculating your budget, wondering if you need to cut back on groceries or skip that weekend trip just to make the math work for the rest of the month. Most people will look you in the eye and say, "That's just life." They'll tell you paying 30 or 40% of your income is your civic duty, the inevitable price we pay for a civilized society. But here's the thing they're completely missing. There is a completely different financial reality happening right under our noses. And once you understand it, everything changes. My name is Noah, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why the global elite seem to effortlessly build massive wealth while the rest of us stay stuck in the exact same financial patterns for decades. If you're someone who wants to understand the real mechanics behind wealth building, instead of just hoping things will magically improve, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up helping you see money differently. Now, before we dive into the exact legal strategies the ultra-wealthy use to make their tax burdens literally disappear, let me ask you something. When you think about someone who pays zero taxes, what comes to mind? Maybe you picture some shady billionaire hiding briefcases of cash in the Cayman Islands, dodging the law and committing federal crimes. The truth is, wealth building and tax avoidance don't work the way most people think they do. Here's what actually happens. The media wants you to believe that the rich are just breaking the rules, but that's the biggest psychological trap of the modern economy. They aren't breaking the rules. They wrote the rules. Tax evasion is a crime designed to put regular people in prison. Tax planning, on the other hand, is a perfectly legal, multi-billion-dollar framework that actively rewards the wealthy. The system is rigged, yes, but it's rigged completely legally. And the crazy part is, most people have absolutely no idea these thresholds and frameworks even exist. Think about it this way. If you've ever tried to push a heavy boulder up a hill, you know that getting it started is the hardest part. You're straining, sweating, making very little progress, and questioning whether it's even possible to reach the top. That is what being a W-2 salaried employee feels like. The tax system acts like gravity, constantly pushing you backward before you can even take a step forward. But once you build enough momentum and cross certain financial thresholds, something magical happens. The boulder starts rolling down the other side almost effortlessly. The elite have figured out how to eliminate the gravity of taxation entirely. Everything before this realization feels like you're pushing uphill. Everything after this realization feels like gravity is finally working in your favor. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something that will probably surprise you. The difference isn't just mathematical. It's not simply that billionaires have better accountants. The real magic happens in your brain. When you're constantly paying a massive chunk of your salary to the government, your brain operates in what psychologists call survival mode. Every financial decision is filtered through fear and scarcity. You take a job you don't really like because you need the post-tax income to survive. You stay in living situations you hate because moving feels too risky. When you're in survival mode, your brain literally can't think about growth, leverage, and opportunity. It's like trying to plan a vacation while your house is actively on fire. Your mental bandwidth is completely consumed by immediate threats. But something remarkable happens when you step out of the individual tax trap and into the world of the ultra-wealthy. Let's start with the first major turning point, a strategy that Wall Street quietly refers to as buy, borrow, die, also known as the phantom wealth strategy. If you ask an average person how they would buy a $10 million yacht, they'd assume you need to earn $15 million, pay $5 million to the IRS, and buy the boat with what's left. That's how survival mode thinks. Income triggers a tax event. But here's the part that will blow your mind. The ultra-wealthy avoid this entirely by simply refusing to earn income. You see founders with a $1 salary. They get paid in stock and assets. As long as they don't sell those assets, there's no tax. Let's say you're saving and investing your money, and you build a $5 million stock portfolio. If you sell $2 million to buy a house, you trigger a massive capital gains tax. You might lose $800,000 in a single second. That's money permanently erased from your future. But an elite investor doesn't click sell. They walk into a bank, show their $5 million portfolio, and take out a $2 million margin loan at a tiny 2 or 3% interest rate. Why? Because a loan is not income. You cannot be taxed on borrowed money. You did the exact same amount of work, built the same wealth, but you shaved hundreds of thousands of dollars off your tax bill just by using debt instead of cash. And the acceleration here becomes almost comical. While you're living tax-free on the $2 million loan, your $5 million portfolio is still growing at 8 or 10% a year. The growth of your assets is literally outpacing the interest on the loan. The debt is paying for itself. And when you pass away, a little tax code miracle called the step up in basis wipes out the capital gains entirely for your heirs. They pay off the loan and keep the rest. It's a flawless cycle. You are paying taxes because you are spending your own money. The wealthy pay zero because they spend the bank's money. Now, you might be thinking that wealthy people have access to some secret investment world that regular folks can't touch. Like there are exclusive hedge funds or special opportunities that only unlock once you reach certain wealth levels. And while there is some truth to that at the ultra high end, it's not what's driving this massive wealth gap. The real secret is much simpler and honestly, much more encouraging. It's just a piece of paper. This brings us to the second massive milestone, the corporate shield. When you operate as an individual employee, you are taxed before you consume. You earn your money, the government takes 30%, and you try to survive on the rest. But when you wrap yourself in a limited liability company or an S corporation, you fundamentally rewire the math of your life. Let's look at a direct comparison. Imagine character A, a loyal corporate employee making $100,000 a year, and character B, an independent consultant also making $100,000 a year through their LLC. On paper, they make the exact same amount, but character A loses 30 grand immediately to taxes. They have $70,000 left to pay rent, buy a laptop, lease a car, and pay for the internet. By the end of the year, they're broke. Now look at character B. Before the government touches a single penny, character B uses the most powerful word in the financial dictionary, expense. That new laptop? A business expense. The car lease to drive to meetings? A business expense. The internet bill and a portion of rent for the home office? Business expenses. Character B spends 40 grand living their life, buying the exact same things character A bought. But here's the kicker. Character B tells the government, my business only made $60,000 in profit this year. The government only taxes that remaining 60 grand. Character B essentially lived a $40,000 lifestyle completely tax-free. This is why hitting the threshold of business ownership feels like such a turning point. Up until that point, your attempts to save money feel almost insignificant. Saving $50 a month on groceries is nice, but it's not exactly life-changing. But writing off $40,000 of your lifestyle as a corporate expense? Now we're talking about money that actually matters. But here's the part that most people completely miss, and it might be the most important point in this entire video. When you start operating behind a corporate shield, you've actually accomplished something far more valuable than just keeping more cash in your bank account. You've fundamentally rewired your brain and built a completely new relationship with the system. And this might sound like some self-help nonsense, but stick with me because this is where things get really practical. Think about what it actually takes to operate a business and optimize your taxes. It requires serious discipline. You have to track where your money goes. You have to understand the rules of the game. But most importantly, you prove to yourself that you can control your money instead of letting it control you. That's not just an accounting skill. That's a life skill. This identity shift is huge because it affects every financial decision you make going forward. You stop reacting to the system and you start designing your way through it. There's another psychological shift that happens at this level that most people don't talk about. You start seeing massive opportunities instead of just threats. When you're trapped in the W-2 paycheck cycle, every unexpected expense feels like a disaster. Your car needs repairs, or your rent goes up and it ruins your month. But when you start retaining your wealth through smart tax structuring, these same events become minor inconveniences at worst. Even better, you start noticing opportunities that were always there, but you just couldn't take advantage of before. A killer deal pops up on a piece of real estate, or a friend is starting a business. Before, you would have made excuses about why you can't afford to invest. Now, because you aren't bleeding out 30% of your income to the IRS, you can actually weigh the potential return on investment. This is what wealthy people mean when they say money goes to money. It's not some cosmic conspiracy. It's that retaining your money gives you options, and options create more opportunities to make money. Here's something else that happens when you truly understand tax loopholes that will make you question everything you thought you knew about budgeting. You start caring less about small expenses and more about massive structural advantages. I know that sounds backwards, but hear me out. When you're broke, you obsess over every little $3 coffee or generic brand cereal. But when you have a solid financial foundation and a corporate tax structure, you realize these micro decisions are largely irrelevant. The difference between a $3 coffee and making it at home isn't going to make or break your financial future. What matters are the big decisions. How is your income structured? Are you utilizing an S-Corp to avoid self-employment tax? Are you leveraging debt instead of selling assets? These choices swing your net worth by hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. You stop sweating the small stuff and start thinking strategically about wealth building. Now, let's talk about what happens to your life when you take this to the absolute extreme, because this is where things get really crazy. What if you want to operate completely off the grid? Enter the third milestone, sovereign arbitrage. Most people are deeply romantic about lines drawn on a map. They are fiercely loyal to a flag, even when the government running that specific piece of land is financially punishing them every single day. But here is the truth of the global elite. Smart capital has no flag. Think of a country the way you think of a business. A country is just a service provider, and you are its customer. You pay a subscription fee, called taxes, in exchange for roads, safety, and infrastructure. If you're paying a 50% subscription fee in California or New York, and you're getting terrible service, why stay? The elite realize they have the power to cancel their subscription. In 2026, location independence is the ultimate tax hack. Look at Puerto Rico's Act 60. An American citizen can fly to Puerto Rico, keep their U.S. passports, and legally reduce their capital gains tax to exactly 0%. You're trading the exact same stocks on the exact same laptop, but because you changed your physical coordinates, you keep every penny. Or look at the thousands of European entrepreneurs flying to Dubai to set up free zone companies to completely eliminate their personal income tax. Or digital nomads using Estonia's e-residency to run their companies tax-free. It's like watching someone spend a fortune on a gym membership they never use while complaining they can't afford healthy food. Most people are handing half their wealth to a government they complain about daily. Meanwhile, the rich realize that they are sovereign businesses with the unalienable right to relocate their headquarters. When a government gets too greedy, the wealthy don't stay and write angry letters to politicians. They just quietly pack their bags. A 4-hour flight can literally change your tax bracket from 40% to 0. Geographic arbitrage means realizing you are not a tree. You can move.
And that will probably make you laugh or cry depending on your current situation. The average person spends their entire life complaining about the system without ever taking the time to read the rulebook. The tax system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to. It was purposefully built to keep the working class generating endless revenue while giving the asset owners and business creators every possible legal avenue to protect their wealth. The media and politicians will constantly tell you to be angry with the rich. But anger does not build wealth. Anger keeps you trapped. You cannot rewrite the tax code, but you can absolutely change which side of it you stand on. Stop trading your finite time for a highly taxed wage. Start creating assets. Start wrapping your labor in a corporate shield. Stop spending your hard-earned cash and start learning how to leverage it like the banks do. Look, setting up an LLC or looking into geographic arbitrage isn't going to make you rich overnight, but it will fundamentally change how you think about money, leverage, and opportunity. It's the difference between surviving and thriving, between just reacting to whatever the system does to you and actively designing your life around it. Start building that foundation today, because your future self is counting on the decisions you make right now. Trust me, they'll thank you for it.